If you're a black man watching your hairline fade, feeling like you tried everything, but nothing works, and you're probably thinking, here we go, another generic hair loss video that doesn't understand my hair type. As a certified trichologist, I've studied 1,000 men just like you, and I found the exact pattern that's killing 9 out of 10 hairlines. And 3 big mistakes even guys who think they're doing everything right still makes every day. And if you keep making these mistakes, you'll end up looking like this in 3 years, wishing you did everything sooner. So I'm about to break down 3 real cases from our own consultations. All right, everyone, we've gotten Dion here, 27 years old, from Charlotte, North Carolina, recently married, and he's been watching his hairline thin out over the past 3 years. What's really interesting, he noticed this when it was still very subtle. He was looking in the mirror every day, trying to get his waves right, and that's when he first spotted the thinning, starting in his left temple area. So here's what we're seeing. Focus on these photos right here. Dion has a classic diffuse androgenic alopecia presenting as a Norwood stage 3 vertex. Look at this pattern. We've gotten visible density reduction across the central part of the scalp. The hairline is still largely intact, but shows early thinning right at the front. And zoom in on his crown. His scalp is showing clear as day. He was the first to notice it when nobody else could see anything. It was just like a faint spot in his left temple while he was just, brushing his waves. But like most black men, he had no idea why his hair was disappearing. 6 months before the thinning started, Dion was dealing with major life stress and dietary changes. Then he got married, which added more pressure during the first year of adjustment. All that chronic stress created the perfect storm, and his hair follicles took the hit. Here's what's going on with Dion's hair. And this is critical. Watch this comparison. Think of it like this. Imagine your hair follicles are like trees in the forest. They're slowly being choked out by invisible vines. The roots are still alive, but they're getting weaker and producing thinner, shorter hair with each growth cycle. This is the same thing that's happening to his hair. So Dion's follicles are sensitive to DHT. That hormone binds to them, shrinks them down over time, and with each hair growth cycle, they produce thinner, weaker hairs until eventually they stop growing altogether. But here's a twist in Dion's story. This isn't just about genetics playing out. Yes, his dad is bald, but his mother's side has full heads of hair well into their 50s. So what's happening here is simple. His genetics loaded the gun, but chronic stress and poor sleep pulled the trigger. Now, the stress component is huge here. Dion told me his stress levels are around 7 out of 10, and his mind is always racing. Not to mention, he's getting poor sleep. Only 6 hours, maybe 7 on a good night. And his diet needs some work. So these aren't just lifestyle issues. It's the perfect storm for losing hair fast. What happens is that chronic stress floods the system with cortisol that forces follicles into the resting phase too early and actually increases DHT production in the scalp. It's like pouring gasoline on an already burning fire. So look at this diffuse pattern. It's happening everywhere, not just his hairline or crown. This suggests his follicles have widespread sensitivity, which makes intervention more urgent, but also more rewarding if we address the root cause. He said when he gets out the shower and looks in the mirror, he thinks, and this is his quote, "Dang, that's crazy, dog. I'm going bald." Now he's brushing his hairline forward to hide the corners, cutting his hair lower and avoiding certain angles. This is why he feels stressed and worried about the hair disappearing. So why is this a bigger problem than just looks? I'll tell you, because those follicles are on borrowed time. Look here again. Every month he waits, more follicles cross the point where they can't be saved. The process starts gradually, then accelerates rapidly until reversing it becomes exponentially harder. Now, Dion is only 27 and he said himself, and I quote, "I'm only 27. I'm already about to look like I'm 40 or 50. But here's what's frustrating. He's actually tried to address this before. He used minoxidil, shampoos with tea tree oil. He tried rosemary, peppermint oil, even mixed all the oils together in one bottle. He was also on a subscription service for about 6 months. The problem, no systematic approach, no addressing internal factors, and probably not the right protocol for this type of hair loss. He said something to me that stuck. He said, "I feel like I was doing damage control, like I was slowing it down, but at the same time, I wasn't seeing no progress as far as like me getting more density." This is what he says to me. That is exactly what happens when you're treating symptoms instead of the root causes. The reality is, most over-the-counter products just keep you treading water. They don't stop DHT from attacking your follicles. They don't fix the stress signals in your body, and they're not designed for your specific type of hair loss. So let's break down exactly where Dion slipped, because these slip-ups are costing him follicles every month. First one, he did what most guys do. He thought Rogaine and finasteride fixed everybody, right? So he grabbed minoxidil, slapped it on, tried a few popular hacks for 6 months, and wondered why nothing changed. But his problem wasn't just a simple receding hairline, it was diffuse thinning. thinning from stress and lifestyle, which needs a different plan. Treating diffuse hair loss like basic male pattern baldness is like using the same treatment for a broken arm and a heart attack. Even when he tried the right products, he ran into the next trap. He admitted himself. He said, and I quote, "I wasn't that consistent because I didn't see big results." He wanted a miracle overnight. So he dabbled for a few weeks, skipped some days, get frustrated, then stop. Hair doesn't care about your timeline. Biology sets the pace. When that didn't work fast enough, guess what he did next? He turned into a backyard chemist. He said, "I was getting all the oils and dumping them in one bottle, then rubbing it on my head." He had no plan, no clue how to interact it, no specific approach for his type of hair loss, just random mixing and hope, which left him with nothing but a greasy scalp and 6 months of wasted time. Now, if you're watching Dion's story thinking, that sounds exactly like me, the stress, the scatter approach that's getting nowhere, I do free hair loss consultations where I analyze your photos, identify your exact stage, and tell you honestly whether your situation can be helped. Plus, I show you what's exactly causing your specific hair loss pattern. Links in the description if you want to book one. But even if you think you've got time to figure out this on your own, let me show you the most dangerous trap of all, when your hair loss is silently stealing your density while everyone, including yourself, thinking everything looks normal. That's what almost cost Bobby everything. We've got Bobby here, calling in from Tennessee. He's dealing with about 6 years of gradual hair thinning that really accelerated last summer when he tried Hims. What's particularly interesting about Bobby's case is that he used to have really long dreadlocks with thick, coarse hair. So this thinning is a dramatic change from what his hair used to be. And let me address the elephant in the room first. I know some of you are looking at these photos thinking, come on, this guy's hair doesn't look that bad. There are people with way worse hair loss. And you're absolutely right. But look at this density drop closely. So here's what we're seeing with Bobby. Both of his temples are receding, more pronounced on the left side, consistent with Norwood stage 2 to 3. Now focus on this frontal hairline. It's thinning diffusely with a loss of density across the widow's peak and the temple points. And look at this crown area. It shows diffuse thinning without a complete bald spot, but you can see the hair fibers are finer and less dense towards the swirl pattern. Now, Bobby's story is wild because he said that his hair used to be so thick and coarse that you could punch it. So here's what's going on with Bobby's hair. And this is a perfect example why his hair looks fine mentality is so dangerous. He has androgenic alopecia, classic male pattern baldness, but it's being compounded by scalp inflammation. This trap keeps guys like Bobby from getting help until it's too late. This is what I call the relative severity fallacy. Just because someone isn't completely bald doesn't mean there isn't a serious problem happening. Here's the science behind it. Bobby's follicles were already genetically predisposed to DHT sensitivity, but they were managing fine for years until Hims threw fuel on the fire. Watch how this works. Most commercial hair loss products are formulated for straight to wavy hair textures. When you apply these to type 4 curly hair like Bobby's, several things happen that most people don't understand. First, the serum sinks in differently. Products for straight hair don't reach the scalp evenly on coily hair. Some spots get too much, others get none. This can cause buildup, dryness, and irritation. Second, Bobby said that Hims spray made his hair feel thinner and straighter than ever. That's just not hair loss. That's chemical alteration on his hair structure. The formulation was too harsh for his hair type, stripping the natural protective barriers that curly hair relies on. Look here again. Texture hair needs a different approach. That sudden shock after years of slow thinning doesn't happen from genetics alone. That's inflammation-driven follicular shock. The important point here, Bobby represents thousands of men with texture hair who are dismissed because their hair loss doesn't look severe enough. But by the time texture hair loss becomes obvious in photos, you've already lost 40 to 50% of your density. Bobby also mentioned something that really shows the mental hit. He said when light hits his hair, he can see through it. His first thought is regret. Bobby got self-conscious catching glimpses in his reflections, checking his hair from every angle, feeling how much lighter and thinning it was. Everyone watching knows that feeling. These aren't vanity concerns. These are quality of life issues. Bobby said he lives in Tennessee where it rains a lot. He used to walk in thunderstorms without feeling the water. Now a sprinkle goes right through to his scalp. He not only sees the thinning in mirrors, but physically he feels the difference every time he steps outside. That's not just thinning, that's structural damage. What makes Bobby's case complex, he's been vegan for many years, so possible nutritional gaps. He takes vitamin D3 and zinc, but D3 without K2 means suboptimal absorption. He's dealing with family stress. He had knee surgery, put on 15 pounds, can't run like he used to. Scalp condition is another piece. Photos can't capture it. Bobby said his scalp was itching and flaking alongside the hair loss. That inflammation accelerates follicular miniaturization, but because his hair still has coverage, people dismiss these symptoms as minor scalp issues instead of seeing them as hair loss accelerators. The fact that his hair grew back after stopping Hims proves his follicles are still responsive, which is good. But the regrowth plateaued because the inflammation and the DHT sensitivity weren't addressed. So partial recovery, not full recovery. Why is this a problem? Because Bobby's at a crossroads. Every month of continued inflammation means more follicles crossing the point of no return. He's already lost the thick, coarse hair texture that was his hair's signature. His follicles produce weaker hairs. His scalp is under siege. His hair looks fine. Mindset keeps guys like Bobby from getting help when it can still make a difference. By the time hair loss is obvious in textured hair, you're facing advanced miniaturization. That's harder to reverse. Not impossible, just more hoops to jump. So let's see what Bobby went wrong and his critical mistakes. First, Bobby knew deep down that generic hair loss spray wasn't made for coarse, curly hair, but he tried Hims anyways, hoping for the best. Second, his scalp care was all wrong. He washed with natural soap that wrecked scalp balance and fired up inflammation. If your scalp is wrecked, everything you stack on top falls sooner or later. Third, like most men with textured hair, he didn't move when early signs showed. He waited until his hair loss looked bad enough to act. By then, years of damage builds up underneath while his coily hair texture hid the real loss. That's just how the cookie crumbled. Bobby's story shows how textured hair can hide damage until it's almost too late. But there's another trap, and that's what happened to Rod, a 31-year-old who tried to fix his hair loss for years, but made one critical mistake that kept him stuck in an endless cycle. All right, everyone, we've got Rod here, 31 years old from Atlanta, Georgia, and he's been dealing with crown thinning for about 6 years now. What's really telling about Rod's story is that he's been actively trying different treatments for the past couple of years. Looking at these photos, we're seeing classic vertex center thinning. Rod presents with Norwood Type 3 vertex. His frontal hairline is still intact, but look at his crown area. There's significant scalp visibility and clear signs of follicular miniaturization. You can see some hairs are terminal, thicker, longer, while others have become vellus, thin and short, showing this as a transitional stage. What makes Rod's timeline interesting, he first noticed this about 6 years ago when he was 25, 26, but it really accelerated in the last 2 to 3 years to the point he's now wearing hats anytime he leaves the house. Now, he said when he goes to the gym or anywhere, his crown is really visible. The psychological impact is real. Rod said if he can leave the house without thinking about wearing a hat, he'll feel unstoppable. He's planning his outfits around what matches his hat. Here's what's going on with Rod's hair. This is a perfect example why scatter approaches fail. He has a classic androgenic alopecia with vertex center thinning, but his treatment strategy has been all over the place. Rod's follicles are undergoing progressive miniaturization due to DHT sensitivity, just like Dion. But here's where Rod's story gets complex. He's actually been proactive about trying treatments, but he's fallen into what I call the treatment hoping trap. He tried Nutrafol vitamins, but didn't stick with them long enough. He did professional microneedling sessions once every 3 months for a year, then stopped. He's been using minoxidil for 8 months now, twice daily, but he's dealing with side effects that are making him question the whole approach. The bigger issue, Rod and his wife are trying to start a family, so he's specifically avoiding finasteride due to potentially fertility concerns. Now, some people might think he's trying to start a family, he should just wait until after he has kids to worry about serious hair loss treatment, but this thinking is exactly what cost guys like Rod years of recoverable follicles. His hair loss doesn't pause for life events. Those follicles are miniaturizing every month he waits. And by the time he has kids, which can be 1 to 2 years, he could easily progress from stage 3 to a stage 5 or 6. What's particularly frustrating is how this has affected his daily routine. He said he still has confidence, but his hair loss is always in the back of his mind, even when he's thinking about his job, career, money, family. There's this underlying worry about his hair situation that never goes away. He's mentioned being conscious of people standing over him or behind him because, as he says, if you catch me at the right angle, you can see the thinning clearly. The crowning is particularly problematic because it's visible when you're sitting down, when somebody's behind you, or in certain lighting. His barber keeps telling him he sees baby hairs coming in, but when Rod looks in the mirror, he doesn't see the progress. This disconnect between what others are telling him and what he's experiencing is creating doubt about whether his current approach is working. What makes this more challenging, he's been to a dermatologist but felt like they didn't understand his hair type. This is a real issue. Most treatments are designed without considering different hair textures and cultural hair care practices. He's using standard minoxidil formulation that's drying out his hair, then trying to counter it with oils. He said, it dries out my hair, and as a black man, my hair is supposed to be moisturized. He's caught between wanting hair growth and maintaining healthy hair texture, creating a daily battle instead of a unified approach. Why is this a bigger problem than just appearance? Because Rod's at the critical stage 3 junction where every month of continued miniaturization means more follicles cross the point of no return. The assessment shows his scalp is healthy with no inflammation, which is actually a great foundation for recovery. But he needs systematic intervention now, not after major life events. The reality, Rod has been running separate experiments instead of building a comprehensive system. He tried individual treatments in isolation instead of addressing all the factors driving hair loss simultaneously. Let's see where Rod went wrong, because these mistakes are costing him follicles every month. First, Rod did professional microneedling once every 3 months for a year, but microneedling needs to be done every 1 to 2 weeks to be effective. Doing it quarterly is like going to the gym once every 3 months and wondering why you're not getting stronger. Next, instead of addressing the root problem, Rod started organizing his entire life around hiding his hair loss. He picks outfits based on what matches his hats, avoids certain events if the hat doesn't work with his outfit, throws on beanies when it's windy. He's managing the symptoms while the actual problem gets worse. Lastly, he's refusing finasteride because of family planning concerns, but haven't explored all the DHT blocking options that don't affect fertility. This leaves his main driver of hair loss completely unaddressed. Now you know the 3 mistakes that are destroying most guys' hairlines. But here's what I didn't tell you. Knowing your mistakes means nothing if you don't know what stage you're actually at. Most guys think they're at stage 2 when they're really at stage 4. And that changes everything about what would actually work. So before you waste any other month on the wrong approach, watch this next video where I show you exactly how to identify your real stage, because the treatment that saves a stage 2 hairline can actually make stage 4 worse.